Hey everyone, welcome. I wanted to talk to you today about backpacking to Havasu Falls, and this is going to be camping in the Havasupai Campground. So, just in case you've heard those words interchangeable, it's Havasu Falls and Havasupai Campground. So this is a picture of Havasu Falls. This is at the 10 miles into the canyon that you're going to be hiking to. And then you keep going after the falls and find a place to camp. The camping area is dispersed, so you can pick any spot that you want once you're within the campground area. And then you're going to set up a base camp, and then you can do a lot more hiking and stuff down in the canyon. So again, this is a 10-mile one-way backpacking. The permits are for 3 nights. So they're for 3 nights and 4 days. So you backpack into the canyon, then you set up your base camp, and then you can do more hikes from your base camp or play around in the water at the waterfalls and just relax in this beautiful environment. The most challenging part about this hike is the first mile or your last mile on your way out. You're going to go through a 2,100 foot elevation change, so it's very steep. And while you're doing this mile, there are parts of the trail that are pretty thin, so you're going to be passing other hikers and also the mules. They do have pack mules that some people can rent. You can rent a mule and put some of the weight on the mule instead of carrying everything that you need. But in general, this is considered a backpacking trip, so you carry in what you need, all of your food, your gear, except for your water. The only water, they do have water down in the campground for you to refill. They have water in Supai Village, which is 8 miles from the start of the hike. So you could refill at the 8-mile mark, and then you can refill in the campground as well, I believe. I don't think you have to go back to the village. But anyway, there is water down in the canyon, so you don't have to have water for all 4 nights, but you do need to have it for the hike. Remember that it's very dry, you're in the desert, and it will be hot during the day, and the sun can be very intense out there, so you're going to probably want more water than you normally would drink on a hike, and also making sure that you're well hydrated leading up into the hike. Okay, so again, the hardest part about this hike is that very first mile where you're going to go through a 2,000-foot elevation change. To put this into perspective for people from Texas, if you've hiked Guadalupe Peak is about a 3,000-foot elevation change, but that's over 4 miles long. So once you're in the canyon, you set up your camp. Then there's Mooney Falls and Beaver Falls. That's about 4 miles round trip that you can go to the next day. And so you can check out these waterfalls. There is one part going down to Mooney Falls that's pretty steep. I think it used to be a chain to get down there. I think they've replaced it with a ladder to get down there. But basically you're going to be splash hiking, so wear things that can get wet and also things that are going to give you good grip. So you might want to pack, put your hiking boots in a dry bag for the parts that you need the hiking boots for, and then your wet clothes for when you're playing in the water. If you're feeling really motivated, you can go down to the confluence, which is about 16 to 18 miles round trip from the campground. This is very strenuous. This is unmarked. You're going to follow the creek more or less to get to the Colorado River, but you cannot camp down there, so you're going to have to do this in a day trip. Some people do it, but most people just kind of stick to the waterfalls that are closer to the campground. And then you can go 2 miles back up to Supai Village, and there's some more waterfalls around that area that you can also explore. Something fun to keep in mind is that the water temperature stays around 70 degrees, so that is good information to have for when you are planning what time of year you want to go do this backpacking trip. Here's a map of just a part of a map. So the bottom of the map is the top of the canyon, and so you're going to be walking into the canyon and going up the map. So you'll pass the Havasupai Lodge first, then you'll hit the Havasupai Campground. That's where you're going to set up your camp. And then Mooney Falls, Beaver Falls are the day trips that you can do afterwards if you want. Oh, they do have a helicopter. You can take a helicopter in instead of camping, but the helicopter rides can get canceled at any point in time. The weather has to be pretty spot on for the helicopters to go in there. So it is a little bit risky. And I think it was pretty expensive. I don't remember how much it was. I want to say maybe $400 one way. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that is an option that you can look into as well. A couple of things to note when you're planning your trip is that you're not allowed to bring drones, alcohol, or have campfires down there. So you're going to want to bring like a jet boil or some kind of propane stove to cook on, heat up your water, and also keep in mind the campfires. So if that's something that's important to you, maybe plan a different time of the year to go camping. Another important piece of information to watch out for is that the canyon is subject to flooding. Okay, so it can flood, it can get flash floods in the spring and also in the summer. So July, August kind of time frame. So you always want to be checking the weather and also stay in contact with the locals to see what the conditions are looking like. You're going to fly into either Las Vegas, which is a 3.5 hour drive, or the Phoenix airport, which is 4.5 hour drive. But you need to fly in the day before you go on the hike. So the backpacking trip is 3 nights in the canyon, and you'll need to add at least one night before and at least one night after for your flights. You have to check in with the permit. So I'm going to talk about permits in a minute here. You have to check in no more than the day before your hike or the day of your hike. The check-in location is about an hour from the top, maybe an hour and 15 minutes from the trailhead. And they have office hours. I don't believe that they're open 24 hours. Therefore, you need to check in while that office is open. So don't plan on checking in at 6 o'clock in the morning and then, driving right to the hike for 7 to 8 o'clock start time. That's probably not going to happen because the office is going to be closed. So make sure you're checking what time the office is open and closed for your permit check-in, because you cannot start the hike until you do that. Okay, permits. The pricing I think is a little bit different than what I have here, but plan about $460 to $500 per person. Every person has to have a permit, but the trip leader can reserve all of the permits for your group, so you don't all have to try to get your own individual permits for the same date. One person can go into the system and get the permits for everybody on your trip, or attempt to get the permits. It is somewhat competitive to get permits, so you have to log on February 1st. So for anybody going on our trip, I will be getting the permits on February 1st, so you don't have to worry about doing that part. The trip leader who gets the permit in their name has to be going on the trip. For our group, the event leader who is good for this event, I will be working with that person to get permits, to make sure that we get permits properly, on time, and in their name. Now, we're going to attempt to get permits within the first 2 weeks of April. If you have any questions about that, you can reach out to me and I can go through more specifically what we're planning to do. But in general, we're looking to fly out on a Tuesday and get a permit for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night. You would hike out of the canyon on Saturday, and then you can fly home on Sunday. So that schedule for either the first week or the second week in April, or we'll do Wednesday to Monday. So something along those lines. You do have to be a little bit flexible, or if you can't be flexible, just make sure that we know which dates you can do, because if we can get those dates, we'll add a permit on for you. And if we can't get those dates, then we will not get a permit for you. Okay. This is the average temperatures for the trip. So in April, which is the time frame that we're aiming for, we're looking at upper 70s during the day and upper 40s at night. For me, this is absolutely perfect camping and backpacking weather. And then you can see the average rainfall is just 1 day. The rain monsoon season really starts in July, August. So they don't get a ton of rain out there, but the flash floods do happen. They are serious, and that is the big thing that we have to keep an eye out for. So, if you're gonna go on this trip with us, then the permit fees will be due in January, and we will lock in which dates we are attempting to get in April. So, you will let me know which dates you can definitely do. And if we get those dates, then you're on the trip. If we don't, then you just get a refund and we'll try again next year. So that's the down and dirty on how the Havasu Falls backpacking trip works. And one more thing about the backpacking is you will need to carry, like I said, the majority of your stuff. You can get the mule, but there's weight. The mule is $400 round trip, and it can carry 4 bags of 35 pounds. So you can split that with people going on the trip if you guys want. If you want to bring, some extra heavier gear, like sometimes people put, extra photography gear or something on there, or if you just don't want to carry all of your weight. But in general, it's best to plan to just backpack this because the mules aren't guaranteed and it's a whole extra process to get the mules. So keep that in mind, and we will have trips to prepare for this trip. We have Big Bend that will be about a month before we go on this trip, so that's a great place to do a check-in. Obviously you'll already know if you have a permit or not at that point, but a month before, doing Big Ben a month before, is a great check-in to see how much more training you have left to do. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at info@htxoutdoors.com, and we hope to see you on this trip. Thanks so much.